Good day, everyone, and welcome to Off the Beaten Tracks. Today, I'm going to try something slightly different. I'm just going to be featuring one band and many albums, only one of which I have because I'm moving across the continent very soon, and they're all in storage except for this one. And this one is also in storage except for the fact that I just picked up a brand new copy in the dollar bins. This is City Boy, and it's The Day the Earth Caught Fire. Now, you may not know this band unless you're from England or older than Stonehenge, but you will know the man who produced them, especially the first 5 albums, Jeff Mutt Lange. This was one of the first bands he produced coming out of South Africa. And while he may have been known as the 6th Def Leppard, he was also known as the 7th City Boy. These guys were originally from Birmingham, England, not Alabama. And they were originally called Back in the Band. Luckily, I think when they got their record contract, somebody convinced them to change their name, which was probably a very, very good thing. Their first album was self-titled and is a bit bland. It's okay, the harmonies, you can hear that it is City Boy, but it's just a tiny bit generic. They put out their second album, also in 1976, and that is a wonderful album. Dinner at the Ritz is one of my wife's favorite albums and one of her favorite songs. It will remind you a lot of 10cc's One Night in Paris. Their next album, in 1977, also really, really good. I've listened to most of these recently, and it was nice to refresh my memory on how good these guys were. The second one was Young Men Gone West, and that will also remind you of 10cc. The third album, interestingly enough, at least to me, was from 78. To me, is a lesser album. A little bit more towards the first album in genericness, but it actually had their biggest hit on it. Their highest charting song was something called 5705. And, it didn't apparently help sell the record, even though the song, I think, got into the top 20. The albums, none of them really sold that well. In 1979, they put out this album, The Day the Earth Caught Fire, and the title song was their second most successful song. That also charted. But they have got a jaw-droppingly horrible video. I will post it down below. But it is horrible. And it's so bad you almost don't recognize how good the song is. Another little piece of trivia about this album is Huey Lewis, the famous Huey Lewis. So I mentioned, I think in the last video, the video before that, actually makes an appearance on this record. On the second song, It's Only the End of the World, there's a harmonica at the beginning of the song, and that's Huey Lewis playing it. So there's all kinds of interconnections on this thing. After this album, hard to say if it was the video that drove them away or not, but Lowell Mason and Chris Dunn left the band. And there was actually 6 people in the band to begin with, and it dropped down to a quartet. And they put out Heads Are Rolling. But they did not suffer from being a quartet. It's another really, really good album with no hit single and no album sales. Then their last album, called It's Personal, is the hardest album they have to find. I've got a copy. I've got copies of all the other albums, multiple copies, and you can see these in cheapy bins and dollar bins everywhere. But It's Personal is a tough one to find. I listened to it the other day. It's a pretty good album too. I don't know. So after It's Personal, they lost their contract due to poor sales, and the band broke up. From there, Mike Slamer, the guitarist, went on to work with Steve Walsh from Kansas in another album I featured on these videos, a band called Streets. He played lead guitar. Steve Broughton, who was in the band, went on to co-write Cyndi Lauper hits She Bop and that Goonies song. So, poor guys, they put out 18 singles, and only 2 were minor hits. But luckily, they left us with 7 albums. I don't know why these guys didn't sell. REO Speedwagon sold 1 million copies, and these guys are 10 times as talented as them. But at least they left us with those albums. And, you know, it's interesting when you hear that today, or that there are great bands and there are great songs and the radio just doesn't play them and the public just doesn't buy them. Well, City Boy is an excellent case, for it was ever thus. Thanks. Please subscribe to this channel, and I'll be back soon.